Step 4. Completing a competitive assessment matrix. Let's think of a scenario that might occur within your organization or business unit. Suppose you have assembled your planning team and you wish to assess how well the organization or business unit and its competitors are doing. Specifically, you'd like to know how competitive your organization or unit is on strategic factors. One way is by using what we call a competitive assessment matrix. Our company asks organizations to complete this matrix as part of undertaking strategic analysis. The task can be very illuminating in itself, because in many cases organizations and business units do not have sufficient information to complete it fully. Figure 4.3 is a competitive assessment matrix for the Middleton Timber Company, our hypothetical company. The 5 strategic factors relevant to the key stakeholder, customers, are used to assess Middleton Timber and its competitors, which are Hudson's, Longreach, Cousins, and R.G. White. An 11-point rating scale has been used. By employing this scale and a table such as this, your planning team can make an assessment of the performance of your organization or business unit relative to your competitors. Implementing the competitive assessment matrix. This tool can be very useful in seeing how your competitors have positioned themselves in the industry, and of course, it can be employed for any of your key stakeholders, not just only your customers. It helps an organization like Middleton Timber that is struggling to decide where it needs to concentrate its efforts. It also assists the planning team to see where competitive advantage can be created. The way we have tackled the competitive assessment matrix may tend to suggest that it is simple to use. While it is indeed a simple tool, it requires a considerable amount of information and knowledge from your planning team. So let's now review what you need in order to undertake it. The first thing is knowledge of the competitors for your key stakeholders. You might recall that the second step in our list for analyzing strategic performance was profiling competitors. You can now see the importance of that step. In developing those profiles, you will build up a picture of what those competitors are and what are they good and bad at. However, the competitive assessment matrix requires a planning team to go further. Going further means identifying the strategic factors relevant to your organization or business unit and its competitors. Now, the hard work really begins. Step 2 for your planning team is to fill in the cells in the matrix for each competitor and for your own company, organization, or business unit. You have to use a 11-point scale. To be able to do this effectively, Your planning team obviously have to have a good grasp of how your organization or business unit and its competitors are performing on strategic factors. Homework and research and conversations and reflections have to be done prior to this. Further, it needs to be taking each key stakeholder's perspective as it completes those ratings. There is no room for delusion or self-justification in this exercise. It's been our experience that many organizations struggle to complete a competitive assessment matrix in a satisfactory way. Often, they're unsure on who their competitors really are. In addition, they may not have done the necessary research to be able confidently to list the strategic factors relevant to a key stakeholder, for example, customers or employees. Furthermore, they struggle to make informed assessments of performance. This lack of knowledge and these blind spots, these inabilities are in themselves instructive to a planning team. How can anyone develop effective strategy? This is one of the key questions of strategic planning and performance management. If current competitive advantage is not known, the answer is of course that it can be done. So, your planning team must do the necessary research in order to complete a competitive assessment matrix in an informed way. Your planning team could be a peer group team composed of different departments or business units of your organization, or the same one, so that there can be reflection, knowledge, and insights, and the most important of all, actionable insights, which can be shareable, identifiable, actionable, and the most important of all, rewardable. Finally, if you do intend to employ our competitive assessment matrix in your organization or business unit, discourage guessing. Work has to be done. When an informed assessment cannot be placed in a cell, please just put a question mark and leave it like there. You can ask your consultant or your coach, like myself, where you can find that information, what research needs to be done. Guessing may be highly misleading, adversely affecting the strategy development that will follow. Thank you. Now let's move to step 5. Step 5. Developing a competitive advantage profile. The fifth step in analyzing strategic performance is completing what we call a competitive advantage profile for each product or service based on strategic factors. The competitive assessment matrix is an overall assessment. For instance, in the column for product quality in figure 4.3, the numbers 5, 2, 5, 5, and 8 give a global assessment of Middleton's timber performance against competitors. Two questions arise here. In what detailed ways is Middleton timber better than Hudson's and worse than RJ? Remember, they are hypothetical names for competitor companies. On product quality, is any particular product contributing to this score? For instance, is product quality high on trusses but not on frames? To tackle these and similar questions, use our competitive advantage profile by product or service. Before doing so, you need to identify each of your major products or services. Identify the market leader or nearest competitor for each. Implementing the profile. The above example illustrates the use of the tool we have invented and called the competitive advantage profile. It takes part of the competitive assessment matrix and explodes it into detail, showing the features of performance on strategic factors that sit behind the assessments in the matrix. One advantage of going into these details for your planning team is that a planning team is thus better able to see avenues for developing strategy. As was the case with the competitive assessment matrix, the competitive advantage profile does require a planning team to have considerable knowledge at its fingertips. Yet, not every team is clear at the outset about the market leader in its field, or if its market leader its nearest competitor. Once these competitors are identified, their performance on strategic factors must be determined. Just in detail, as in figure 4.5. The planning team needs to understand the causes of competitive advantage. So please check figure 4.5, competitive advantage profile. There, you are mapping your strategic factors as your advantages and comparing it with your nearest competitor or the market leader. This is a crucial mapping in a strategic analysis for your planning team. This is the keystone and the key for the next steps. So, said this, let's move to step 6. Summarizing results as key strategic issues. We have arrived at the final step. The final step involves summarizing the analysis of your organization's performance as a set of key strategic issues. A key strategic issue is an item that will have a significant impact on the prosperity of an organization or business unit, and which must be addressed via the strategic plan. Please pay attention that we are not talking about operational issues here. Operational issues are a world apart. We are talking about strategic issues. Because there is a tendency for planning teams to gravitate towards operational rather than the strategic. After all, operational issues occupy more than 90% of every manager's day. Talking to departments, seeing financial reports, talking to clients, talking to providers, talking to other managers. The 90% of the day of the manager, which Mr. Henry Mintzberg mapped in his famous book about managing. They are uppermost in every manager's mind. It is only natural, therefore, that when planning team sit down to consider what needs to be done, they focus on the operational rather than the strategic. Strategic issues have an outward focus and relate to matters in the marketplace of an organization or business unit. Breadth versus depth in product lines is just an example of a strategic issue. Operational issues, by contrast, and you have to take this in mind, have an inward focus and are concerned with organizational structures, systems, and processes. Ineffective communication is an example of an operational issue, even though it may eventually affect performance. The list of key strategic issues should number less than 10 and make an easy-to-use checklist for planning activity. This checklist must be like the checklist used by the pilot when they plan their trip in an aircraft. In one way or another, your strategic plan must reflect these issues. Let's check 3 sample lists of key strategic issues. We derive them by working with planning teams within each organization and by applying at least some of the steps for analyzing strategic performance outlined in this important unit. This is like a medullary unit in strategic planning. Please review it. Write your questions and contact me if you have any questions. We can make some research together. Thank you. Now let's move to the examples. Example 1 is a university. Among the key strategic issues, and not operational, keep that in mind, identified by the planning team were how to improve market perceptions of Northbridge University. Market perceptions. Value-added quality of graduates and differentiation of graduates. Value-added differentiation. Improving product and product delivery. Product. Greater emphasis on vocational and tertiary education in society. How to compete with trend towards year-long education. The globalization of education. Pricing of product. Our second example is a finance company. Farmers Finance Strategic Planning Team identify the following among the organization key strategic issues. Remember, key strategic issues, not operational issues. Strong competition in the marketplace for finance. Falling commodity prices in agriculture. World currency markets and their impact on farmers' incomes. Competition from banks and other financial providers. Further consolidation of farms and its impact on customer base. Increased emphasis on environmental issues and sustainability in farming. Negative attitude of farmers towards banking competitors. This finance company specializes in small and medium farmer producing companies, so they can finance them. Example number 3, consulting business unit of a hydro producing energy company. This is a consulting business unit within this electricity company. It is an example of a business unit within an organization that wishes to develop strategic plan to assist in its competitiveness and future direction. Among the key strategic issues it identified for itself are the following. Need to clarify our business image. Need to diversify customer base beyond its current limitations. A strategic fit of consulting business unit within the company. Technological development in key competencies. Structure of electricity industry. Talked about these examples, let's point the importance of analysis. Much strategic planning is undertaken, unfortunately, with the correct and appropriate analysis. In some cases, planning teams do not analyze at all. They simply develop strategy without taking the time to identify strategic factors. Understandably, perhaps since this concept is unknown to many strategic and planning teams. Other planning teams, they do undertake good analysis, but of the wrong type. And this is a problem I crash in throughout all industries and companies. Planning teams analyze income statements, balance sheets, finance, and get bogged down in this accounting and finance conundrum. All without first, remember, getting a strategic perspective on the performance of the organization or business unit. Because strategic factors have remained unidentified, organizations and business units have lacked the tools to undertake effective strategic analysis. That's why they fall back on accounting spreadsheets. This happens all the time. You see all the strategic planning teams looking on accounting spreadsheets and finance and sales reports. This unit has now rectified this situation by supplying a range of techniques based on strategic factors that really get planning teams to think strategically, to analyze, to reflect, to talk, to research the industry and their company and their key stakeholders. Without taking a strategic perspective on performance, a team is likely to become embroiled in operational issues. This happens all the time, failing to see the strategic ones. But if you follow the 6 steps outlined in this unit, your strategic planning will be much more strategic than it has been in the past, and this is a major breakthrough from the finance accounting conundrum to the strategic planning. We turn in the next unit to how to set objectives for your organization or business unit. So, we have finished this unit. It is a very important unit. Please review the 6 steps carefully and the figures to complete. This will be the foundations of the next units to set objectives, to set targets and beyond. So, thank you. This was Victor Marc Ramos speaking, and see you in the next unit.